Okay, wow. Video. I actually had a whole different kind of live stream I was planning to do today about the little bit of a recap of the special session, the one-day deal, this whole thing with Plinkett and Haida going down in Juneau that I've been reporting on, and some other things. But it's all basically been kind of put aside for now with a kind of bombshell major announcement from President Trump, really out of nowhere, on Truth Social that he's meeting President Vladimir Putin in Alaska in 1 week on August 15th. Just absolutely wild. We've never had a Russian head of state or leader in Alaska. There's been many that have been, including Putin, to other, New York, D.C. Putin was in Texas, famously, with President Bush years ago. I have a list I'm going to kind of go over. First of all, before I go into this and talk about this and what's going on and what I've heard and what might happen, I want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor of the Landmine Live, the live streams. John Quick's down there in the Kenai, great guy, supports independent journalism. So I really want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor of the live stream. So let's get into it. I want to talk about, show you guys. Let me pull up it's my little screen there. Let me go over here. This came out a while ago, okay? You've probably all heard about it by now. If you're watching this, you follow the news, you know what's going on, but you've heard about this. The highly anticipated meeting between myself as President of the United States of America and President Vladimir Putin of Russia will take place next Friday, August 15th, 2025 in the great state of Alaska. Further details to follow. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This was Truth Social. This was a couple hours ago. I got a ton of texts. I don't do a Truth Social. I do X and other but a lot of this stuff gets posted everywhere. So I got contacted by a lot. I honestly, at first, this kind of goes back to like old Trump when he was really active on Twitter or X, a long time ago. It's kind of like, is this real? Is this post real? You have to go and check. It always was. It was always real. This was one of those kind of like throwbacks to old Twitter Trump. Did he really say that? Did that happen? Is this happening? And in fact, yes, it's. I've been watching some of the other news, NBC. They've been talking about it. There's been a BBC article coming out. So this is 1 week. I mean, normally these things with heads of state, these are announced months in advance. This is 1 week. Now, we don't know where it's going to be. There's speculation, So Putin has his own big plane. I think it's a Tupolev. What kind of plane does Putin have? I think he has a big Tupolev plane. It's a Russian plane. I was going to check this out before I did the live stream, and I'm sorry I'm doing this right now. It's this huge, I think it's a Tupolev, I'm pretty sure. No, it's Aleutian. It's a big Aleutian. So it's a huge, big plane that, we have the Condor flight from Frankfurt to Anchorage or from Anchorage to Frankfurt over the pole. Putin could easily fly direct Moscow to Alaska, whether it's Fairbanks or Anchorage. I'm guessing Anchorage. It's biggest city, make the most sense. There's more things available. But is it going to be on the base? Is it going to be on J-Bear? Or is it going to be somewhere in Anchorage? The advanced team, the time to get all this worked out in a week. I've actually heard, well, the other thing, thinking about hotels. It's summertime, it's tourist season. If attention to LaFrance, Mayor LaFrance, clean up the streets. Maybe this is the one time we can solve the vagrancy and the homelessness crisis and all these zombies running around. We're going to have a lot of people, a lot of media, a lot of folks. These guys are going to roll in probably, I'm guessing, 50, 60 deep each, right? They're going to have their whole people with them. Air Force One's going to be here. Putin's big Aleutian plane's going to be here. I don't know if they call it Russia One or what, but they're going to come in 50, 60, 70, 80 deep each, right? And then you got the media, and you got other people that are going to. So I just asked Twitter earlier. I asked Grok about Soviet leaders, Russian leaders that have been to the United States. Famously, Khrushchev came here in '59. That was a meeting. That was a visit. Khrushchev, Brezhnev came to D.C. in '73. Gorbachev came to D.C. in '87. This is Soviet. These are Soviet leaders. Yeltsin came to New York, UN Security Council, Camp David, Maryland, with George H.W. Bush in '92. It's all East Coast stuff. He was again in D.C., Yeltsin, New York, Seattle, visited before departing the U.S. This is Yeltsin, '94. Hyde Park with Bill Clinton, '95. That's Yeltsin. I'm just going to heads of state. I'm not going to do prime ministers. Putin was here in New York, 2000. D.C., '01. Famously, he was in Camp David. He was in Texas. So Putin had been here many times. He's been president since 2000. He was briefly prime minister when Medvedev was president for a bit there when they had to change the Russian constitution to allow him to have more than two. I think they had him be more than 2 terms. It's still two terms, but I believe they made it 6 years instead of 4 years. They may have even got rid of the term. Let's see, I think Medvedev was here as well at some point here. Medvedev was in the U.S. He had that meeting with Obama. Remember when Obama was like, just let me get past this election and I'll be able to work some out with you. I don't know if that was in U.S. or not. Where's the Medvedev? Here we go. Medvedev, 2008, D.C., G20 summit, New York, attended UN. A lot of times New York, UN stuff in D.C. But we've never had a Russian. I mean, it sounds like Yeltsin might have stopped in Seattle in the 90s on his way back. But this is kind of fascinating because we have this history of Russian Alaska for a long time. The fur trade was happening. And then we kind of in 1867, Seward, they called it Seward's Folly. He organized the purchase of Alaska from Russia, the Russian Empire, which, wasn't very much money. I think it was 7.2 million in today's dollars, a couple hundred million. There was never more than, I think there was never more than a few, maybe up to not even 1,000 Russians ever in Alaska. It was really for the fur trade and for kind of trading furs and other goods. So we got that. And then, Alaska kind of hung out as a military district. It became eventually a territory in the early, 19th, 20th century, and then it became a state in 1959. So, but there is this history of Russia, and the Aleutians and other parts of Southeast Alaska, and we still see some even today, the Russian Orthodox influence, and then kind of separate from that. But when I first moved here in 2004, there was an exchange program with the Far Eastern State University in Khabarovsk, and there was a lot of Russians that came to Anchorage for school. I mean, dozens or more a year. That's kind of, that program was unfortunately canceled years ago, but there is a decent Russian community here in Alaska, and there is a lot of history. So it's kind of an odd place to meet, but also think about maybe strategically, maybe it's the best place, because anywhere else, if you go to D.C., New York, I mean, the amount of protests, the amount of security, this is just, it's Alaska. I mean, we have 700,000 people. There's probably easier logistics to once you're here, get things set up. By the way, I've put this on our Twitter and on Facebook. We have a company I co-own with other folks, Scott Jensen, Trip McNally, some other guys. We have a satellite truck, a KU satellite uplink. Let me just go ahead and, while we're here, let me just show you guys this. We have this available, so if you're watching this in your national, international media, we even did a little thing here in Russian. I speak Russian pretty well. I had a friend help me with this. This is kind of some technical kind of words of this is basically saying studios, нас полагает грузком функциональный резервным KU спутником uplink. This is kind of because we have a satellite uplink available. If any Russian media needs it, but if any American media needs it, international media needs it, we have this thing here. It's this big truck. It's a satellite. It can beam up, feeds of news and TV and all this stuff to the satellite, and then it can go anywhere. This used to be a lot more common a long time ago. Now there's internet, but these are very stable, and it is still used. So we have this thing. This is available. So if you're watching this and you're media and you want a satellite uplink to this meeting that's going to happen next week on August 15th with President Putin and President Trump, get a hold of me. It's all here on my X. You can send me a message or email or message me on X or jeff@tudorroadstudios.com. That's the email for that business. But this is it's going to be, I can't even just imagine who's going to descend here on Alaska for this thing. And what they're going to, I mean, it's all obviously about the Russia invasion of Ukraine. This is the topic that, Trump famously said he was going to resolve very quickly. It's not been resolved very quickly. It's still happening. He's been frustrated with kind of Russia's not coming to the table and not really backing off, especially, their kind of control of the Donbass, which is kind of Lugansk and Donetsk and eastern Ukraine, and then Crimea. I actually went to Crimea in 2015, about 9 months after the referendum, and I kind of wrote, this is before Landmine, but I did write about that trip, and very complicated, we could talk about that for hours, the NATO expansion since the Soviet Union expanded, adding like 15 more countries, many of which border Russia, the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all these other, there's been a lot of problems here going back 30, 40, almost 40 years, 35 years. And this directly kind of deals with Ukraine and kind of NATO and the EU. And, Russia's been invaded, by Napoleon in the 19th century, by the Nazis, Hitler in the 20th century. So there's a lot of historical kind of issues here. between Russia and Europe and dealing with Ukraine and now America. So this is gonna be, I don't know. My kind of hope, especially for access and seeing this, is it's not on the base. It's I don't know. I mean, Trump likes the show. He likes to do things big, and if it's on the base, maybe it's gonna be. I mean, I can't imagine it's gonna be like this closed off. Nobody gets to. There's not gonna be a press conference afterward. There's not gonna be some kind of announcement or at least some kind of media opportunity. So, Captain Cook. I'm thinking Captain Cook, right? If it's going to be Anchorage. I mean, it could be Fairbanks, but I think from what I'm hearing and from what I'm kind of observing, I think Anchorage is going to be the place. But also, like I said, hotel rooms. It's August. It's busy. They're expensive. I mean, some hotelers and restaurateurs right now are very excited about this thing. It's going to be a day, but people are going to come probably days before, and they're going to stay days out. They always have advanced teams that both sides are going to send in. I have no idea. It's not clear if other people are coming. Is Rubio going to be here? Lavrov? The foreign minister of Russia, is he going to be here? Is it going to be other military people from the Russian side or the American side? I don't know. I mean, this is just all new information, and it's a big thing. We've never had a Russian leader in Alaska. It sounds like the closest, according to what I asked Grok, was Yeltsin was in Seattle in the 90s. They've oftentimes been to the East Coast, to the UN in New York, and meeting with presidents and people in D.C. and Camp David, Maryland. But and then Putin, the famous trip, I think, to Texas with George Bush, W. Bush, a long time ago. But it's big. We're gonna have to watch very closely. I'm actually going to, and I'm almost reconsidering this, but I'm going to go because I've always wanted to go. I'm going to ADAC tomorrow, so I'm flying to ADAC tomorrow, early afternoon, and I get back Wednesday. There's 2 flights a week to ADAC, Alaska Airlines. So this thing's Friday. I get back Wednesday night. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're not going to have any issues with the weather or getting back. But this is going to be an absolute kind of circus, pandemonium. Of this. This is two of the most significant, most known, call it controversial, definitely known people in the world. Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, are going to be here in Alaska. Now, famously in the 80s, there was a meeting with Reagan came here, and he met with. There was a meeting. The Pope was around, and there was Frank Murkowski told me this story where there was kind of a meeting about the Soviet Union involving this guy Lech Walesa, who was a Polish politician who became president. And they met in Fairbanks. So there has been big. The Pope came here in the 80s. Reagan was here. The Pope. These things that was in Fairbanks. That kind of meeting. But he was in Anchorage too. So I mean, we have had people stop over sometimes. Trump, when he was president before, he'd stop over and meet with. And they would go see him at on the base or whatever. They'd stop for a little bit. But I guess maybe the most famous one that I could think of is during when Walker was governor. President Xi came here. Obama was here. This is again just president by himself. He was here. That was I think Bill Evans might have seen him at the Captain Cook at the gym. When that was years ago. Former Assemblymember Bill Evans. But the biggest one I can think the most relative one is President Xi was here when Walker was governor, and he was trying to pursue the gas line with the Chinese. And Xi was here, and there was this kind of motorcade of like 15 cars, and they went down to Bird Point, I think, or somewhere down the Glen Highway. And that was a big, if you remember that, if you were here, that was 2016, maybe 17. That was maybe after. I know that Xi famously went to Putin or Trump went to China when they signed that big deal with Xi that ended up not panning out with the Chinese. But that was a big one. I mean, I remember I was here and there was a ton of downtown. It was like massive security vehicles. And, you got to think I'm sure Trump's got some paranoia problems. So I don't know if he's got this huge illusion. Are they going to bring several planes? Are they going to bring their own vehicles? Are they going to bring, security? Just the logistics of this is going to be absolutely wild. And also, I would think Putin maybe and the Russians would be more likely to come to Alaska. Like I said, it's not Seattle. It's not Washington, D.C. It's not New York. It's not L.A. It's not, these big cities with more security issues. I mean, he's probably got to be somewhat maybe on a very small level. I mean, this is why it's not Europe, worried about, some these criminal courts trying to, come after him and arrest him or I think he has arrest warrants out there from the criminal courts. And so, I'm sure that's maybe a tiny, maybe consideration, but it's Alaska. So I don't know. I think this is probably the best place to do it, and it's the historic connection with Russia and in Alaska is kind of interesting. I joked on Twitter. I said, what if Putin says we're ending the war in Ukraine, but we're getting Alaska back? Trump's gonna give us Alaska back. Joking, of course, but it's who knows what's going to happen. I mean, Trump's he's a weird guy. He does things that very unorthodox, very out of the box, very not like most leaders we've ever seen. So it's hard to say what is going to happen. I mean, hopefully it goes well. It doesn't. There's a good result out of it. There's a good I guess result that comes out of it. We hopefully there's not a blow up or there's not some kind of scandal or something bad. This has been a long time coming. I don't think they've met. The last time they met was, I guess, probably when he was president. They were Finland. There was a meeting in Finland, I think, 2018. So it's been a while. I mean, it's been. I don't think Biden ever met Putin. He might have met him before the invasion, but I don't think he did. I think he talked to him, but I don't think Biden ever met him. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm thinking Anchorage. I hope not the base, J-Bear. That might be where they end up at least landing. I don't know if they're going to meet there, and then maybe if they do any press stuff, do it there, or if they're going to be in Anchorage, if they're going to be at the Captain Cook or somewhere. I don't know how many people they're bringing. I don't know what other dignitaries are coming on the American side or the Russian side, but it's all about Ukraine, and it's all about this war, which started in 2022. It's been going on for over 3 years, February of 22, and it's. I think nobody wants to end it, maybe more than Trump. I mean, that's kind of one of the things he ran on. And I do believe, I do 100% believe if he was president, this wouldn't have happened. I think Putin saw our disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, other just kind of issues that just made us look not great and weak, and he made the move, and there was really no repercussion for it. I mean, there were some sanctions and this and that, but essentially it's really, I mean, the Ukrainians are, the worst part is for the Ukrainians. I mean, all these people that are having to be displaced and move, and people that are fighting and dying. I mean, the whole thing is just really horrible, and ending it would be great for everybody. I think the best way to end it, the most logical result is going to be Donetsk, Lugansk, which is the Donbass, and Crimea go to Russia. They get it. No more advancement west from the Russians, and Ukraine not joining NATO or EU. I mean, that's what's probably that's the only way this thing, I think, ends. I don't know how else. The Donetsk, Lugansk has been under Russian control since 2014. Crimea's been under Russian control since 2014, and it was annexed. I mean, it's part of Russia. So I just don't see these things changing. We're not going to go with troops. I don't know how much the Europeans are dedicated. I mean, NATO's, I think, with them, but as far as money and weapons and especially troops, it's not going to. It's a really. I don't want to say complicated. It is complicated, but it's a really sticky situation, and there's no easy way out of it. So in my view, the only way out is Russia gets control of Donbass and Crimea. That's like recognized, and then they don't. Basically, you aren't going anymore. That's it. You're done, and then Ukraine won't join NATO or EU for some period of time, decades, whatever. But it's happening next Friday. What Trump said in Alaska, probably Anchorage. I'm not sure. It looks like Anchorage. With President Trump and President Putin, and who knows how many folks they're going to bring with them. I think it's going to be one of the biggest political events in Alaska in many. I mean, the Bill Walker Xi thing, probably the closest. And then there was Reagan was here, and the Pope was here in the 80s. But this is never had a Russian leader come to Alaska. This is the first time. And it's a very controversial guy, Vladimir Putin. So I cannot wait to see it. I'm gonna hopefully there's gonna be some kind of press. RFK, Robert F. Kennedy was here a couple days ago. He's in Alaska. He was in Anchorage. He had a press conference at ANTHC. I went to that. I was able to ask. I actually got the first question. I asked him about the high cost of healthcare in Alaska. The rates are going up, premiums are going up all the time. I had my appendix out a couple years ago. It was $50,000. 10 out of pocket. People are going to the lower 48 for procedures and for surgeries, because after plane tickets and hotels and all of that, and bring somebody with you, it's still cheaper. He didn't have a specific answer for Alaska. He said costs are going up and it's a problem. But he did say something interesting about just kind of the rise of chronic illness. Since his uncle John F. Kennedy was president, he said 3%, now it's 60%. The food, the Maha movement. He's really big about that. So I mean, I think he's right about those things about the chronic illness, the food, are just kind of general health in America. But the costs are a problem. There was a reporter, Liz, I forget her last name, from the Wall Street Journal. She asked a fascinating question at the end. She almost didn't get called on. She had to ask it, but she asked about RFK's kind of history in Alaska with his dad. And I didn't really know this, to be honest. I've since read about it, but his dad, Robert F. Kennedy, his father, the senator and the attorney general, was really a big supporter of Alaska Native, American Indian, Native kind of Hawaiian, Samoan people. And he had come here, and he even told a story where he was in Arctic Village. RFK Jr. was in Arctic Village years ago, and he's been to Alaska many times. He talked about his passion for Alaska. Dan Sullivan kind of joked that when he invites cabinet secretaries up, it's always kind of, hey, do you want to come? It's Alaska, and maybe come fishing, blah, blah. They've never been here, but RFK was like, I've been, dozens of who knows how many times. He's been to Southeast and North Alaska, Arctic, Anchorage. He's been all over the place. So he talked about his dad when he was in Arctic Village working with the Gwich'in, and he's got an environmental background, environmental law, kind of really left on the environmental stuff and the energy stuff. He even joked, RFK, when somebody asked about environmental justice grants being canceled, he said when Trump hired me or asked me to take the job, he asked if I stay away from energy and environmental issues. And I kind of laughed. Some people, a lot of the reporters were a little bit, I don't know, they were real serious about it. They were kind of focusing on the vaccine stuff. They didn't really have a sense of humor, but I thought it was hilarious what he said. But he said he was in Arctic Village years ago, and they said, we remember when your dad came here on a sled dog unannounced. And he just he got very excited when this person, Liz, asked him the question from the Wall Street Journal, and he talked about it for a while. And I was meaning to do a live stream, and I'm talking about it now, but I'm just shocked none of the media picked up on that. I mean, that was he was really passionate about the answer to that question and about his dad's. RFK even said that when he met with Lisa, he kind of joked he was skeptical that she was going to vote for him. But after the meeting, after he talked about all of his connections and history in Alaska, visiting Alaska as a child and later, and many times, he felt like that got her vote. So he was here. That was a big thing. I was able to get a picture with him. Actually, it was kind of cool. It wasn't easy to get, but I wanted to get that. So that was the big guy, big dignitary up this week. But next week, the Putin Trump thing is going to be. I mean, Trump's been here several times. He's stopped over, when you're living here back then, you saw Dunleavy would go on the plane and talk to him, and he'd have a little stopover. I don't know if he ever spent any time. I'm not sure if Trump ever really spent any time here. If you know, message me. I don't think other than the airport, I don't think he's really hung out. So I'm going to be covering this. I'll be in ADAC tomorrow till Wednesday, but I'll have internet. I'll have Starlink. So I've got a lot of people I'm talking to about when I learn information, just go to Landmine Twitter. Check out Landmine Twitter. A lot of updates are going on Twitter, Facebook as well, but that's more bigger kind of stories, not as much like in the moment updates. Again, I want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor of the live stream. Really appreciate John Quick for supporting kind of independent media and journalism here in Alaska. Check our Twitter. It's going to be a lot of updates on this thing, X, whatever you want to call it. And folks, again, if you like the Landmine, if you like our live streams, if you like our stuff, please consider making a one-time or monthly recurring donation. You can go to alaskalandmine.com/subscribe, or you can, if you have a business or an organization or a campaign and you want to do an ad, we sell ads. We got tons of hits on the website every. I'm happy to share the analytics with you. We have hundreds of thousands of hits on the website a month, sometimes more when there's big stories. There's a big story I've been working on about this Tlingit and Haida situation. Richard Peterson sounds like an absolute just kind of maniac, just harassing, harassment, intimidation, reprisals from this guy. I need to go into that later. There's an article I did. Since I've written the article, I've heard from a lot of people who have been exposed to this Richard Peterson guy, the president of Central Tribes of Tlingit and Haida. And this guy sounds like an absolute just dirtbag. And the fact that he's gotten away with this for so long and has been protected by people, and how many people are involved in it, and how many people have jobs around him, and how that creates kind of a culture of silence and intimidation. I'm gonna be talking more about that later. But the big news here is Putin will be, according to Trump, in Alaska next week, Friday, in 1 week from today, meeting with Trump about the Ukraine, about the war in Ukraine. So it's going to be a big week, big news week here in Alaska. It's I'm watching it. It's all over the news. It's everywhere. So I'm looking forward to it. By the way, if you need a satellite truck, if you need a satellite uplink, if you're in the national, international media, and you want to have a satellite, secure, stable satellite uplink, we have the only satellite truck here in Alaska. It's, I think, the only one north of maybe Seattle, as far as fully functional satellite KU satellite uplink. So get a hold of me if you need that. We have rates. It's available. and nobody else has one. So we have it, and we're willing to make that available for the Trump-Putin. Are we calling it a summit? I'm not sure, but it's going to be happening next Friday here in Alaska. So thanks for watching, folks. I'm going to ADAC tomorrow. I'll have some updates from ADAC. Very excited for watching. And again, I want to thank John Quick for being a